Welcome back to the Balancing Act podcast. I'm Andy Temte. On the Balancing Act, we talk to business leaders and industry experts to explore the balancing acts we play in our professional lives and learn about the events that put rocket boosters behind their career success. Today, we have Barry Kelly joining us. Barry is co-founder and chief executive officer of Thought Industries, a leading learning experience technology company based in Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome to the show, Barry.
Oh, thank you so much. Delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited for today's show. Barry and I got connected while I was still at Kaplan, talking about all things learning and learning management, learning experience. We'll get into that a little bit later. But before we get started in earnest, please tell our listeners your story.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah. Hopefully you'll be able to tell a little if my accent is still knocking around. I've been in the United States about 25 years now, but grew up in Ireland, in a little village outside of Dublin called Kill in County Kildare. And during the summer times, we'd come over to the US to, make a few dollars. And, I was always really interested in technology. I was studying marketing at the time and just sort of fell in love with an opportunity to come here and learn a little bit about how the intersection of marketing and technology would work together. So that started my journey. I spent a little bit of time in startup companies right after college here and got, I suppose, my dream job about 2 years out of school when I went to work for Berklee College of Music. And they were building an online music school. This was 2001. So my job was to go in with a small team of folks and help sort of, build a school and kind of figure out what the go-to-market plan was. Spent about a year and a half building, and then I moved over to the go-to-market side of things and helped sort of do all the marketing and all of the admission side of things. And I just had an incredible career there. I really got interested in the technology around learning, how it's delivered, what makes for exceptional learning experience, what doesn't make for a great learning experience. But really the ecosystem around the business, right? All the bells and whistles that are needed to operate a learning organization at scale. A part of that just got me really interested in doing consulting. So I worked with a bunch of companies, helping them figure out maybe non-traditional learning organizations, how to build learning products, take them to market, how to sell, package, deliver, optimize, grow. And that was really it. Did that for a number of years, and just after kind of rinse, repeat, I'm looking at most learning management systems on the market. And trust me, the world didn't need another LMS at that point. There's plenty knocking around, but it became clear with myself and a couple of co-founders that there was an opportunity to build a technology that was assembled, with a host of different types of features and technologies and capabilities. And that's when we founded Thought Industries in 2013. And that's really been the journey. The last 10 years since we founded the company has been, very rewarding, and has been an incredible journey of learning for myself, as a co-founder and a CEO of a company. Just very grateful. And I think it's really been possible because of the people that have been around me, supporting me and helping nurture my career as I've grown as well. So just turned 50 this year, so I've had to reflect a little bit. And it's been, I feel very, very grateful for where I am today.
Well, Barry, I'm 10 years ahead of you. I turned 60 on September 6th this year.
Nice.
Those are times for reflection, especially 50. I really love your experience at Berklee. That must have been just fantastic. If you're watching this show on YouTube, you can see guitars behind Barry. I've got one over here. Our producer, Nick Tempte's got a whole wall of guitars at his place. So you can imagine before the show started, it was all old home week, a bunch of musicians rapping about their music careers. But Barry, if you had to pick one event in your life that just put rocket boosters under your career, what is that?
Yeah, I think it was interesting because I would have said moving through my career as a very driven individual, and I I couldn't wait to get out of college, couldn't wait to graduate, couldn't wait to learn, couldn't wait to get my first job, couldn't wait to get my first promotion. It was just get. I would say that I'm a goal setter, very much so. And I remember it was one day, and this is, I suppose, how things happen. I was in a startup company I was working at the time, in my little marketing office where I was hanging out with the salespeople and the marketing people talking about positioning and PR and websites and all that. And I walked in to a room with the developers and started talking about a marketing challenge that I was trying to solve around, email marketing. And I don't know, it just unlocked this sort of, I would say, a kind of a fork in my career in many ways, that I became so, and this was at a time where a lot of companies had to develop their own technology, their own CRM systems, their own websites. There wasn't all this SaaS technology out there. And I was absolutely enthralled by the ability to start building things with, and looking at and working with engineering teams and building technologies. So that was a fork for me as a marketer. It allowed me to start building. I built CRM systems. I built CMSs. We built all of the surrounding technology for marketing, landing pages, checkout flows. I got into e-commerce. And so for me, that was something that, had I not walked into the office that day, maybe I would be, a marketing leader somewhere, but certainly not somebody that has, spent the majority of their career now sort of on the I suppose on the business and technology side.
Yeah, we're going to talk later about really the concept of technical debt.
Yeah.
And I remember those days, late 1990s, early 2000s, when you had to build everything yourself. And man, time passes, and then all of a sudden, all that homegrown software just builds up into a mountain of technical debt. We'll talk about how you've helped solve that for companies on the learning side. Before we go there, I'd love it if you could give us a brief primer on exactly what is a learning experience platform that Thought Industries would be providing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I would say, at Thought Industries, we are what we call, we're a learning technology company. We focus exclusively on what we call external learning. So our customers are sort of, I would say, in two major categories. One, companies where the core product that they offer, training, education, is learning. And that can be consulting companies, enterprise training companies, professional continuing certification organizations, associations, or anybody that runs learning businesses at scale. We also work with organizations where they have a different primary product, but they are leveraging learning. We call it customer education or partner training, where they're leveraging the power of learning to market, to sell, to optimize, to get product adoption, to improve the KPIs of the business. So ultimately, those are the two areas that our company focuses on. It's a suite of technologies that allows you to create learning experiences. So that is everything from short format interactions and learning experiences all the way to multi-year blended learning programs and sort of everything in between. And also a whole suite to operate the business. So reporting, integration, the delegated administration, multi-tenancy, license management, all of the complexities of delivering global learning, commerce and sales. So that's really where we specialize. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of fantastic customers that have been, on the journey with us. And, it's been, I think, we've been very fortunate that we have had so much focus in these particular use cases.
Yeah. Listening to you kind of rattle off all of those, that componentry of your systems should give our listeners a sense of just how complicated it is to deliver learning at scale, especially for larger audiences within big companies. So I really appreciate the work you're doing at Thought Industries. You've been leading the charge to change the world of learning management and learning experience since 2014. Let's talk balancing acts. What's the most important balancing act that a leader of a business in the learning experience space has to play?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I would say, obviously taking sort of my personal balancing act, that's a long conversation for another day. Maybe
Well, we'll get there in the next
bring my
question.
wife in, we can have a long conversation about that. But I think it's really interesting. Our technology, the philosophy and the vision for our company is sort of built around these two pillars. One we call ultimate respect for the learner, which means how do we help organizations create the most compelling learning experiences possible, right? So create an experience that gets outcomes. That's sort of one. And the second sort of part of this is helping optimize the business of learning, right? And those two things are really, that's really where I see the largest amount of balance. Sometimes I can go into a conversation with a learning organization and we don't talk about learning experience. We've spent 2 hours talking about optimizing the business, the delivery, the growth, the marketing, the monetization, the tax system, whatever it may be. And so for these organizations and for our business, we're always having the conversation around the balance between those two objects and how important they are to growth and sort of the long-term impact of the learning organization.
Yeah, that's a really important conversation because leaders, business leaders generally, they depending on their background, they get tired of spending money against learning, especially when there's not a direct return on investment. And so if you can optimize that whole environment, the economic part of it, and start showing return on educational investment, we're going to get more leaders to go, yeah, learning woven into the flow of work, aligned with the work that's being done, what needs to be ultimately delivered to the customer. If we can get more people to start seeing that straight line from learning and growth out to the customer and economic returns, that is going to be awesome. So thank you for that. Let's shift gears to you. So what's the most important balancing act that you've played that's contributed to your personal career success?
It is a very, it's been something that I spent a lot of time before we hopped on here trying to, figure out how my balancing act has actually worked in reality. I think there's probably my perspective on it, and then there's probably the perspective of the people that are around me in terms of how I do that and how I accomplish that. I think I'm one of those people that has to continuously iterate. I find if I think a little bit about the balance of sort of work and life, being present in my job and then being sort of present outside of my job, I think those are things that generally are in constant. There's not an equilibrium. They're in sort of constant battle against each other. I think when you, like anybody that starts their own business, and 10 years ago when we founded the company, there's no option but to absolutely pour everything that you have in your mind and your body into the thing every day. 20-hour days, crazy travel, lots of stress, and then also trying to juggle having a family and maintaining friendships and all those other things. It's just a constant battle. I'm a person who likes to meditate and as someone that contemplates and sort of tries to evaluate what's going on at all times. I'm also pretty insecure sometimes around whether or not I'm doing a good job. So I'm constantly asking myself the question, do I have the right balance? And invariably what I tell myself is I don't. And so I make some iterations, and whether that to be lifestyle or whether it to be my level of presence or my commitments to different things on either side, make a change, do some iteration, and then it's kind of rinse, repeat then, as time goes on. But it's a constant, I always feel like it's a sort of a constant balance, really, balancing act.
Yeah, a lot of people, they listen to this whole concept of balance in my first book, Balancing Act. It's always striving toward balance. Some folks say, well, what do you do when you get there? And well, you're not going to be in balance very long. So it's going to be a pretty short trip to imbalance, and life just takes you there. So yeah, striving toward balance, and that the reflection that you're doing, I applaud you a great deal for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that has been the most important thing. Probably what I've learned from my mindfulness work is about being present, and in whatever I'm doing. If I'm turning up and I'm in work, I'm present there, same as I am at home. And so I'm certainly catching myself in both of those different scenarios when maybe I'm not at my best. So I think it's good. It's a good exercise to at least be recognize when these things are happening or not.
Yeah. Well, Barry, we're going to take a very short commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm Andy Temte. My new book, The Balanced Business, is scheduled for release on October 3rd. This book blends everything I've learned over the last 35 years and details the management operating system I would deploy if I could go back and do it all over again. The Balanced Business is a practical, real-world guide to help businesses achieve long-term success that's built on a culture of trust balanced with accountability. The Balanced Business is available for pre-order on Amazon.com today. And we're back with Barry Kelly talking about the world of corporate learning management and experience. Barry, many employees look at the prospect of quote unquote learning at work with feelings of dread and trepidation. These feelings are fueled by decades of dry compliance training and page-turner online learning offerings that really have no bearing on day-to-day workflow. What advice do you have for learning leaders to change these feelings of dread into a desire for lifelong learning in the flow of work?
Wow. Well, I love that question. And I think if I didn't ask myself that question 12 years ago, this company wouldn't exist, because I was one of those individuals, in the workplace who was being forced to endure what it was that was being delivered as learning in my job. And as a marketer and a website builder, and at that time, and someone that was really into technology, I just felt like we could do a better job, in the world. And so the way I put it, I would think about it like this. To me, there's two core components of learning: the experience and the outcome. And I feel like in a way, not intentionally, but certainly for a long time, our industry was very focused on the outcome. And, we would maybe make excuses for the materials or the process. Now, especially, I'm not talking about in person or institution. I'm talking about, more virtual learning or e-learning. I think we kind of really focused on trying to get to the outcome and less on the experience. And maybe that was because of technological restrictions at the time, or internet speed, or browsers, or whatever excuse that we came up with at design conventions. I think as an industry, we maybe sold ourselves a little short. And so I think what I would say to anybody involved in creating what we would call a learning experience or learning product, think a lot about the experience. And we, as a company, when we started, we worked with a lot of consumer brands who were creating learning experiences. And that word kept coming up over and over again: consumer grade learning. When somebody is paying for learning or experiencing that out of their own pocketbook, you have to work really hard to make them come back over and over again. And so you have to deliver on two things. You have to deliver on the experience of learning, how much joy, experience, what was it like to be in there? What was the process of learning? Was it adaptable enough for you to be your best self? Were you surrounded by peers? Did you have good instruction? And also, do you feel like you got the desired outcome? So those are the two things I would always ask like learning leaders to consider the quality of the product, both the experience and the outcome. And the second thing, which is more relevant today, is that the continuum of what is defined as learning is being stretched, right? So learning is no longer, a formal 1 hour, 2 hour, 10-hour program of learning. Learning right now is being unblocked, right? Learning in some cases might be being entertained, right? So there's a lot of different ways. So when we think about learning in the flow of work, we have to think very specifically about where the individual is and what outcome they're trying to connect with, right? And that may be just being unblocked from a pathway, understanding how to do something more effectively, in their day-to-day job, being inspired by a new strategy or a new concept, or it may mean they need to be certified, in a very, very specific, longer learning experience process. So those are the two things I think that are kind of at play now, and quite exciting about the way that the world is moving.
I like that word unblocked that you're talking about. And, our own egos and our own biases, they get in the way of that. Well, I learned engineering this way, and so you will too. It's kind of, or I became a doctor on this road. This is the road you're going to walk down. If we just open our minds a little bit to other types of experiences, other ways of approaching learning, I think that would be very beneficial.
Yeah.
Now let's segue to technology. Yeah. This will be fun.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to many employees in the workforce, and we were talking about this technical debt issue before, most companies have learning technology stacks that are unwieldy and composed of a soup of homegrown platforms and third-party offerings, don't talk to each other, don't work seamlessly together. What advice do you have for learning and technology leaders to modernize their stacks to better serve their people?
Oh, what a great question. What a really great question. And I could open the little drawer here and I could take out all of these, schematics for learning stacks at organizations that we've collected along the years. Every single one of them fascinating in their own right. And I think it's needs must, right? We talked a long time ago. I was the guy that built a CMS. I remember Salesforce in 2021 coming in telling us that we could use their technology for a CRM system. I was like, there's no way anyone can build what we need. We're so specific and unique to the world. And the world has changed, right? I think there's more and more technologies out there that are going to allow you to sort of take advantage of their product roadmap, of the velocity of development, of their feedback from peers like yours in the organization, where they're optimizing the technology to help you solve those problems. It's a daunting task because in many cases, the technology stack is critical to meet goals, right? So whether those are learning goals or whether those are financial goals at an organization, they're mission critical. So by disabling or unpacking one of those pieces of technology can be quite risky. The other part, that is sort of connected to that is in many ways when we're unpacking these technologies is that we have to change the format in which we create an offering or use or operate a workflow, and that can be to organizations, in many ways, a nerve-wracking thing to do. So I think really the learning stack, if you think about it. And we work with organizations that want to collect and create the best in breed selection of technologies at a time. They want them to be able to communicate seamlessly with each other at any point. They want that technology to be adaptive, meaning that technology can change, right? The business needs can change. New technologies should be able to be plugged in and plugged out, communicate seamlessly with each other. And in many cases, that's the sort of business that we're operating in. We're helping organizations not only just with the technology, we're helping them with strategies around how do they begin to sort of unpack the technical debt that's in front of them, and also create as I said, a staged approach to doing that. So it's not always for the faint of heart, but I think for the organizations that get out on the other side of of that of that work process, they see a lot of advantages, right? I think you've got two audiences. One is your external audience, your learners, and then the other audience is your internal employees who are working in these technologies day in, day out, banging their head off the wall because it takes so long to operate or deliver a specific task, support clients, support partners, on the other, or develop new content or new learning experiences. And it's an opportunity to liberate everybody, get a better quality product, and then also just kind of optimize the business of learning. And for us, we do it in partnership with our customers. So we essentially, we're a little bit like a coach as well. We're like, when things get tough, we're there to help out and help organizations navigate things that can be, a little bit difficult at times.
That phrase, liberate the people. That was great, because you're absolutely right. Learning platforms within businesses are usually the last thing that gets invested in, the first thing that gets disinvested when times get tough. And so we end up dealing with all of this clumsy legacy systems that just take so much time and effort to load a new course or to bring a new module online. And everybody's, especially the folks behind the scenes, are just beating their heads against that. So liberate the people.
Yeah. I think, the interesting thing about all of this is that, people, ultimately, they are, a lot of times they've had a lot of experience or been heavily involved in the development of specific parts of the learning technology, right? And so changing that, can be a really, really big deal. So I think it's about showing individuals and organizations, a pathway out of that, and also, ways to actually improve, the business as well while they're doing it. So yeah, it's, important.
Yeah. Now let's have some fun, Barry. I'm going to put you in a time machine. You can have 280 characters that you can send to a previous version of yourself. What previous version do you send it to, and what's the message?
Yeah, this is I think the Barry who was 15 or 16 years old, in school, not necessarily very academically gifted. I wouldn't say that. I would say that the process in which I learned, in which everybody learned in my cohort, probably didn't really work for me. And I remember at a time having it was a mock interview, and in that mock interview, the individual, and probably at the time, I'm 50 now, so it's going back a while, made a suggestion that, I went in there saying, I want to be in business. I'm not sure which part. I'm excited about the possibilities of all this thing. And, they basically told me that I should probably consider another career. And, I kind of wanted to go back. I'd like to go back and send a note to the Barry that walked out of the room that day, and just say, look, there is an alternate way for you to learn. There's an alternate way for you to inspire individuals around you. Here's a list of your strengths that you haven't discovered yet. And if you, persevere and you work hard, anything's possible. And I think that's it. That's something, as I said, I learned from my parents, and especially from my dad, who got up every morning at 5 a.m. and drove to the other side of Ireland and worked, 10 and 12-hour days, is that, the anything is possible if you're willing to work hard enough for it. And that's something that I've been, that's really important to me, as work ethic. And so those would be some of the things that I would put in that little note. And also, you hear about this a lot. I think, these very, very small, meaningful, these things can be very, very meaningful engagements that you're having with young people who are impressionable and looking to be inspired for their futures and for their future careers. And so I think we, as individuals, and now a guy at 50, I think we need to be more careful about how we inspire those coming behind us.
Yeah, that message of, you should think about a different career. Those things, you're 36 years later, you're you're still thinking about that moment.
Yeah.
That is so important to stress, because these, just a few words can last a lifetime. It's incredible.
Absolutely.
So, Barry, wrap things up. Final question. What's next for Thought Industries? What are you excited about? What keeps you up at night?
Oh, what's next for Thought Industries? As we continue to grow, we released a lot of new technology last year to help organizations continue to, as they do both, right, can create more compelling learning experiences and also to be able to optimize the operation of their businesses. And we can continue on that. We've also created a technology on top of that called Helium, which allows organizations who want a headless learning system to be able to innovate and build the next generation of learning products on our platform. So those are things that I'm incredibly excited about. Things that keep me up at night. I don't know. There's so many. I've been very fortunate to be part of this business since we started, and I've kind of had every job. So I'm one of those individuals who can analyze and look at lots of parts of our business and understand and have empathy for those people that work for our organization. And sometimes it's more empathy for them. Those are things that keep me up at night. How do we help them solve problems? How can we build a culture or process around what we do that makes it easier for them? Because software and software technology and building businesses is difficult, and it takes a lot of commitment and a lot of hard work. And it's important for us as leaders to be able to create an environment where people can feel supported and people feel understood in the job and the tasks that they're trying to execute.
Excellent. Well, Barry, this has been an absolute pleasure reconnecting with you today. I wish you all the best in whatever comes next. Thanks again for joining us, Barry. My name is Andy Tempe. This is the Balancing Act Podcast. You can find us on all the major streaming services. Please like, subscribe, rate, and most importantly, share the show with your friends, neighbors, and colleagues. The show is produced by Nick Tempe. Thank you, and have a great day.